Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. This is Vaibhav, your host for correlation and regression, and this is the last session of this year. And next time around, when we will be meeting, we will be in New Year 2023. Now, in last session of this year, let's try to wrap up how things shaped up. Of course, we will not be going into the whole yearly review. Rather, we will be looking into what transpired in this week and particularly in today's session to see if there are any emerging opportunities to be exploited as we wrap up the year and also today's session with the US session. So let us now head to the JForex for the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. With the Euro USD chart, I have defined the candle period at 5 minutes each. I have added the range for last 2 hours and 4 hours respectively using these Donchian channel of 24 and 48. We are also considering the average price prevalent over last 1 hour and 2 hours using these SMA 12 and SMA 24 respectively to give us an idea of the momentum and where we can look for optimizing our entry and exit points. Now, if we consider the movement for today's session, it has traded in a sideways manner with the bias being on the bullish side for the euro. If we consider the formation on the hourly time frame, you can see that for last 2 sessions after this formation of the higher high, we have seen the bias slightly shifting to the bullish side. And if we consider the prior moves, it was mostly sideways with upper bound moves being capped around the levels of 1.066 to 1.067. Then came this slight expansion of the range, and we saw the range expanding to 1.067. Then yesterday we saw it further expanding to the 1.069, and finally today we have the Euro USD touching 1.070. In yesterday's session, I had talked about the possibility of a break on the higher side for the euro, and that's what we saw. But as I have said for last many session, the bias is not strongly bullish, rather it is a consolidation phase with the slight bias being bullish. So it is a better idea to keep looking for the opportunities whenever we have dips. So you can simply adopt buy on dip strategy unless and until there is any significant break below 1.06 range. 1.06 has been a crucial level for last many days, almost for last 2 weeks, and that has continued to provide support to the euro. And even in today's session, we saw the euro USD holding well. Today it didn't really dip towards 1.06. Rather, if we consider this low, it came in close to 1.064. So today the move has been rather shallow. The corrective move has been rather shallow, and in line with these projections, I think we can expect the Euro USD to climb towards newer highs in New Year. So as we come back for trading on Monday, we will have to uh, keep the options open for further move beyond 1.07. And as things stand, I think with these multiple attempts to break above these prior swing highs and expansion of the range on higher side, we do have a strong possibility that after 2 weeks of consolidation we might see the expansion of the range for euro, and it might finally break past this resistance zone and move towards 1.08 or even beyond that in coming days. Now if we have to take trade in today's session, we will do well to keep the bias on the upper side, but of course then we have to decide whether the Euro USD is the best bet for a buy trade, or if we have any opportunities in other forex instrument, currency instrument, where we are likely to have our chances on the higher side. So let's start the comparison between the major currencies and how these major currencies are behaving in their moves against the dollar. So we will be looking at the timeline of this formation of the swing highs and swing lows, and along with that we will also be considering the magnitude of these respective moves to get a good idea of how things stand and how we can expect to profit from this side momentum. Now, if we consider the Euro USD immediate swing high, it came in at 1640 GMT. After that, the Euro USD has gone into this corrective phase, and slowly and steadily it is moving toward this prior swing low. So it will be interesting to see if this decline is going to be contained closer to this swing low or not, or if it is going to decline further and move towards the prior support or prior range low of around 1.06, which is a crucial support and a major support area. So let's compare the Euro USD's price moves to the other major currencies. Let's see what's happening in the AUD. For AUDUSD, the momentum is weaker compared to the euro. The euro has been trading with strong bullish bias, lot more stronger compared to what we are seeing in the AUD. And if we look at the magnitude of the decline for AUD, it is significantly higher, more than half a percentage point, whereas for euro, the decline is far more shallow, and also it is still holding well above this prior swing high. So the momentum is bearish for the AUD, whereas it is still bullish for the euro. But if we have to look at it from the larger time frame perspective, then the formation still is of consolidation phase, with the slight bias being on the higher side. So whenever we get the opportunity to go for a buy on dip strategy, we can opt for that, but of course we have to wait for the AUD to stabilize first, and even the immediate support, the range low is not really close. It is around one, not one, sorry, 0.671. So that's almost 50 pips away from the current level. So we will have to allow more time for the AUD to consolidate, and if it does get closer to it, or even if it holds above it, but only after due consolidation, we can think about going for fresh long trades. And as long as this formation is supportive of the bullish momentum, we can keep trying for buy on dips. But here in today's session, we have the euro to be on the stronger footing compared to the AUD. So even if you feel like going for a trade, maybe later in the day after a couple of hours of consolidation, you would do well to prefer to trade in euro for any buy trade compared to the AUD. Now let's consider other major European currency, the GBP. GBP is apparently on the weaker footing compared to the euro, as it has approached this immediate swing low, which was also lower compared to this prior swing low. Only thing which shows the momentum on the upper side for GBP is this swing high, but I think GBP is also not in a strong bullish momentum in today's session. Rather, it is trading in a range with lower support coming in around 1.20, and on the higher side the gains are being capped around this prior swing highs. So the same trajectory is holding well, and so far it is showing the same phase of consolidation. And I think here also we have the possibility of GBPUSD reversing course, but for that we will have to allow it more time, but instead of going for a long trade in the GBP, we still have the euro, which is holding well. And even if we consider its prior swing low, it was higher compared to the earlier low. So both these factors point to the stronger bullish momentum in euro compared to the GBP. So taken together all these factors, the bias is stronger in in euro, the bullish bias, whereas the bearish bias is much more stronger in AUD, and GBP is middle of the pack currency. Now let's consider the NZDUSD. NZDUSD is having this decline, and it is also showing substantial decline from the higher levels. If we look at the magnitude of decline, it is almost closer to 1 percentage point. Let's compare the decline of NZD with the AUD. AUD has also declined substantially, but still its decline is less in terms of the magnitude. So I think both these Asia Pacific currencies are trading with weakness after the start of US trading session. We have seen this reversal and it is pushing on the lower side, but it's not totally bearish. And here also, as I said, in other currencies we still have the larger time frame bias of the consolidation, and we can keep looking for buy on dip strategy. So the same thing can also be applied for the NZD, but given the fact that we have much stronger chances in euro, we will do well to keep our focus on euro instead of going for a buy trade in AUD or NZD for that matter. Let's consider now USDCAD, USDCHF, and USDJPY. The CAD has also started to weaken, and it has gone on to decline. And we have now the USDCAD at the highest point for the day. If we leave out this sharp move, which had pushed the USDCAD to 1.35762, now the USDCAD is also trying to break past that level. So the USDCAD has reached the highest point for the day, which means CAD is at its weakest level for today's session. So here we have the momentum, which is a lot more weaker in the CAD, and we can get a good idea of the relative strength and weakness for CAD and the AUD. The AUD's day low is at 0.6754, and it is still holding above the day's low. But for the CAD, we have a fresh formation. That means of all the major currencies which we have seen so far, the CAD is the most bearish one against the dollar, whereas in case of euro, we have the momentum on the bullish side. So we have the EURUSD trading in a bullish manner, and right now, even though the correction is happening there also, but still the decline is much shallower compared to the kind of decline which we are observing in other major currencies. So we have got the spectrum where CAD is the most bearish against the dollar, and euro is the most bullish against the dollar. But overall, if we have to consider the larger time frame picture, it is still of a consolidation phase with these moves happening within the range. And here, even if the CAD is looking bearish against the dollar, I don't really feel that it is going to decline too much in today's session. Its losses might be capped around this prior swing high. So USDCAD is likely to trade within the range in today's session also, and we can expect the USDCAD to stabilize in the latter part of today's session. So it will be a good idea to keep our trading position in a manner where we will keep preferring for a trade in which we will expect these major currencies to get stronger against the dollar, as dollar's strength is likely to grow short-lived and it is more often part of the consolidation phase. Now let's consider the USDCHF. USDCHF has also reversed course after making this low at 0.92. We have seen this substantial move on the higher side. Even in terms of the percentages, the move is quite large, and that means the CHF is much weaker compared to other major European currencies like GBP and the Euro. The Euro is the strongest against the dollar of all these three European currencies which we have seen so far. And if we have to go for a trade in today's session, the USD CHF is not really offering us much clarity, as we have the CAD in a much better position if we are to bet on the strength of the dollar, and we have Euro in a much better position if we have to bet on the strength of non-USD currencies. If we expect the USD to weaken further in the latter part of the day, then the Euro USD is the best placed instrument to trade with a strategy of buy on dips. And if you are expecting the USD to strengthen further, as we see in case of USD CHF and USD CAD, then we have USD CAD, which is best placed for any buy trade to be taken. With further weakness can be expected in the CAD, as CAD being the weakest of all the major currencies against the dollar. USDJPY can be placed somewhere in the middle. It is not really showing that strong tendency. USDJPY's gains are being capped and it is still lot lower compared to its prior swing highs. So keeping that in mind, I think we have this bias in USDJPY, which is more favorable for short sell trades instead of going for a long trades. And if we compare it to the euro to see if we have a stronger bullish momentum in euro or in JPY, the euro is still leading. For USD JPY, we have this fresh swing high formation, but in case of euro, it has been able to hold the ground and it is still trading above the prior swing low, so that gives the euro the edge. So here we have seen all these major currencies, and in this spectrum we are getting confirming factors that euro is one of the strongest currency against the dollar, whereas CAD is the most bearish currency against the dollar in today's session, and then rest of the other currencies fall in between these whole spectrum. So you have to decide which way you want to trade, and as I said, there is lack of momentum on either side, with slight bias being on the bearish side for the US dollar. And if you are expecting the range to hold, then we still have the Euro USD as the best placed instrument, forex instrument to trade with. Now let's take a look on the equity segment. For the equity segment, we saw the dip below 33,000 after the start of the US trading session, and as we are seeing the increased volatility in the US equity indices, we have to compare and see how things are shaping up on the hourly time frame. So here in Dow Jones Industrial Average, we saw sharp gains in yesterday's session, but those gains were not really maintained, and rather we saw this reversal from the higher side. And even now things are going only downward for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But if we consider the larger picture, I think it is still part of the consolidation phase with not much of an room to decline on the lower side as we have this prior swing low coming into the play. So here the strategy should be to adopt for a buy on dips if we see the Dow Jones Industrial Average holding well closer to this prior swing low around 32,800, and if it doesn't really dip much in next few hours, then we will have the trade in the Dow where we can go for a long trade. We can expect it to climb back about 33,000, and eventually it can be expected to go toward this prior swing high of around 33,300. So that possibility is there and we can try to gear up for that. But in that case, we have to figure out if the Dow Jones Industrial Average is the strongest instrument or if we have better opportunities emerging in S&P 500 or Nasdaq for that matter. Now, if we consider the S&P 500 price formation, it has also followed a similar trajectory. In yesterday's session, there were substantial gains, but those gains started to evaporate after this consolidation around 3,860. But apparently, if we simply consider this price formation, we have the S&P 500 holding holding, you can say in a comparative sense, holding better its gains compared to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, as this decline is shallower for the S&P 500. In yesterday's session also, when we were looking at the chart, the S&P 500 was trading with a stronger bullish bias compared to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and later in the day then we saw these gains were higher in terms of the magnitude for the S&P 500 compared to the kind of gains which were observed for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And as I said here, this low is lot more closer to the immediate swing low, but for the S&P 500 the prior swing low is still at a distance which is higher in percentage point compared to the distance which we are observing for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So both these factors taken together, we have a slightly stronger bullish bias in the S&P 500 compared to the Dow. So for any long trade to be taken, if you are adopting a buy on dip strategy, the S&P 500 has to be given preference over the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But before we can finalize, we also have to consider the Nasdaq. And just like yesterday's session, in today's session also we have seen the Nasdaq being able to hold well compared to the both the S&P 500 as well as the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Here you can see that last hour has closed with gains for the Nasdaq, but if we consider the candle formation of the Dow Jones and the S&P 500, the closing was less than the opening price. So this is also giving you additional confirmation that of all these three major equity indices for the United States, we have the most bullish environment prevalent in the Nasdaq. So if we see the stabilization around the current levels or even levels lower compared and closer to these prior swing lows, we will still have to give preference to the Nasdaq as its gains have been much sharper and also higher in magnitude compared to the gains which we are observing for S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So all these factors taken together make us believe that if we were to go for a long trade in today's session, the Nasdaq would be a better choice. So I would suggest that allow some more hours of consolidation, and if the Nasdaq doesn't really break past this immediate swing low, this prior swing low, then we do have solid chances of seeing the Nasdaq eventually recovering and climbing past this immediate swing high of 11,000. So that possibility is there, and that entails the gains of around 2 percentage point. So we do have the possibility, and also in relative terms we have stronger tendency to rise in Nasdaq, so that can also be a factor while defining and determining the instrument as well as the entry point. So that's my take looking at the formation of the price action in equity segment for the United States. And as the day progresses and as we get closer to the wrapping up of the session and also the year, we can rely on this price formation to help us even on Monday when we will be back to trade in a new year. So watch out for the Nasdaq for any trade to be taken on the buy side for today's session as well as after the start of Monday's trading session, and see how things shape up, and we can expect it to climb past this price swing high and eventually toward the levels of 11,100 or thereabout. So thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous time ahead. See you on the other side. See you on next year. Have a fabulous time ahead. Enjoy the weekend and the festivities tomorrow. Goodbye.